Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast Reviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood Zach Pearson, and today I'm joined by Disclaimer. So for those of you who don't understand how videos or just YouTube works in general, a lot of companies utilize any and all forms of automated systems to flag a video. When a video is flagged, it doesn't matter how many days have passed, how many weeks have passed, or if it's 10 minutes after you upload it, you'll get a temporary strike on your channel, a big old no talk from YouTube, which is total bullshit, even if it is promotionally available material that quite literally anyone can access. So for those of you wondering why we're utilizing old-fashioned way of just recording our screen and maybe looping the trailer, that's why. Because if we do anything else, whether it's promotional or not, relating to this, Marvel's AI, Disney AI bots are going to swarm down upon us like locusts and say that we're trying to steal their stuff, even though we are legally allowed to use promotional footage that is commercially available in the continental United States of America, which is where this video is being recorded. With that being said, introducing he whose office knows no limits, a one officer 9,000 plus one.
Don't worry, I'll keep us safe from all the Disney bots. How you doing?
It is actually very, very poetic that you said that. As right as you said, protect from the Disney bots. Fucking little old Jeff the Shark, Land Shark, created a protective bubble around your character. That was adorable.
Heh.
And introducing he who hates Jeff the Land Shark like a plague of locusts descending down upon his Marvel Rivals game, a one Scare Shuffle the Pilgrim.
Into that, I'm a Gwenpool fan. I like Jeff. But yes,
so
hello.
precious and adorable.
The fact that they got permission to use the Baby Shark song in a comic was fucking hilarious.
I mean, they don't really need to get that much permission with it being used in a written format, because they're not playing the song, so legally I think they can.
No, actually, depending on, well, how much of an asshole the label is or the artist is, it actually can get fucked with, which is so damn stupid. Yeah, it is. It is the dumbest shit ever. Because first off, the whole entirety of humanity is eventually going to make a sentence that sounds similar to another sentence. What then? You're gonna be up someone's ass over that? But most people don't care. Because it's not even the optics, it's because you will just look like a greedy bastard. As if the video title wasn't already, suggesting it, we're now going to start discussing and reviewing Captain America 4, aka Captain Falcon, the movie. Now, because we're three different people, we have three different grading systems. We are not Roger and Ebert, which I believe no one under fucking 30 even knows exists or remembers. So my grading criteria is letter grade format. It will consist of grading the plot and the story. Yes, those are two different things. Written dialogue, sound effects and the music. And then I will go into cons and issues and where I think they need to improve, followed by a summary of what I would give a final letter grade, or is it must watch or pass, and Scare Shuffle, would you like to regale us with your criteria real quick?
I'm just kind of do it on a 1 to 10 scale, where 5 is just dead average. It was a movie. That sure was something I did watch. And then from there, that's really just, I can explain as I don't like to put hard labels on it, but it's just a generality. So if I say it's a 5, I mean, well, that was sure a movie I just watched.
I'm sorry, but your number 5 grading is fucking hilarious.
That was a movie I sure just watched.
Yeah, just like the explanation of it. All right, now, officer, if memory serves, you're utilizing the same criteria as me, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. 1 to 10. If it's something that somehow was really like, this is the best thing I've ever seen, then I'll go for 11. But haven't had anything like that happen yet.
Okay, well, that being said, due to your time constraint, if memory serves, we're both going to go to push to talk, and officer, you have the floor, starting with, plot and summary, and then roll your way into the writing, and then sound effects, cons, and your final summary grade.
Okay, let me just put myself off of push to talk. Okay, so starting with the plot and story. The plot that we got was honestly not super amazing. It was certainly acceptable, but I feel it could have been a lot better and was mostly held back by the villain, which I'll get to that when we get to the con/improvement. But I'd give the plot probably a 6. As for the story that was presented to us with, our various characters' interactions and the like, and then that would be writing dialogue. I would give the story that was presented probably a 7. Little, maybe slightly above average, but what we've at least come to expect as normal. So at least for the Marvel movies, so nothing super amazing. It's not say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 level, where the story that was presented was honestly really amazing. Now, the writing, I would give it probably a 7.5 to an 8, because it was honestly, for what story was, what they were trying to present to us was competently presented. I wouldn't say it was, other than, again, the villain, particularly bad. And even, with the villain being what he was, what they presented there was still competent. The dialogue, the character interactions were really good. I really didn't like the villain, but the interactions he had with President Hulk were pretty good, considering their rather long history with each other. So I give the dialogue personally an 8, because they did really good with the characters' interactions with each other. As for sound effects and music, I wasn't overly wowed. I would probably give both maybe a 6 or a 6.5. It didn't really feel all that impressive. It served its purpose, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. Now, the con and where they could do improvement. So, our villain, Dr. Samuel Stern, he's like a super genius, because some Hulk blood got into his head and then got all up in his brain. Then he had even more gamma radiation, shot at him to make him even more super intelligent. But he was having trouble with predicting the actions of a hero. Someone who he's probably had a whole lot of time to observe, both the previous Captain America and, Sam Wilson as as Falcon. you look back at Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you get no, even further back than that, back to Civil War, where we have Helmut Zemo playing Iron Man and Captain America against each other almost effortlessly. And while Zemo is certainly intelligent, he's not like a super genius like Stearns became after the whole brain getting in a bit of Hulk in it. So Baron Zemo, he had even fewer tools available to him than Stearns did. And he was able to go to so much further with what he was able to do with those limited tools. And with Stearns, he had full-on mind control just by some flashing lights against someone who he had some genetic information on. And from what we saw on the walls in his lab, there was at least 25, maybe 30 people that he had control of. Zemo had one, yet Stearns had 30 and wasted almost all of them. Seriously? That was a really shitty villain. There was so much more he could have done with a full-on 30 people that he could give a short, like, I want to say it looks like it was around 15 minutes of mind control, or somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes. There was so much more that he could have done, but he didn't. And he could just go up to people with this device that let out a frequency that could make their heart stop. Maybe he could have weaponized that too, but didn't. It just felt really fucking stupid, is what it was. For a super genius to be so bad at just going through with his lifelong plan. Otherwise, the only other flaw I could think was, aside from the villain, was during that the fight above the Celestial Island. Why didn't Captain Falcon slice off the wings of those F-18s sooner? I mean, I know his one other buddy, he didn't have, his wings couldn't slice through the jet's wings. Otherwise, they could have just done like a nice 1-2 slice off both wings, get the pilots out, trigger the forced eject, and that could have solved that scene in just a couple of minutes rather than 5-6 minutes we had for that scene. It would have been like maybe 2. But really, he should have sliced the wing off that F-18 a lot sooner than he did. And they still could have had, as it's going down, he launches the missiles at the Japanese fleet, and Cap, dives in, chucks his shield at him, and then Falcon goes in and, gets super fucked up, taking down the 2 other missiles that were fired. They could have still had that. It just felt like they were really padding that scene out a bit too much. And I feel like we could have had maybe the interactions between President Hulk and his daughter. She could have possibly shown up a little bit earlier, even if it was just as a like a scene of her, ignoring one of his phone calls, and maybe while watching television, like to at least acknowledge that, yeah, she's more than just a cameo appearance at the end. She felt kind of really tacked on, like last minute little. Oh well, sure, let's have her actually show up in the ending and have a phone call. I feel like they should have at least had her show up physically on screen more than just once. I don't know. But honestly, I think that's about it for me.
What's your final grade, bro?
Oh, final grade? Probably 7.
That's high.
See, just by you saying that, you just foreshadowed some shit.
No, I'm saying that's high based on what he was saying his ranking system was. I'm like, based on everything I heard him say, that sounds much higher from what he was saying.
Oh yeah, I honestly thought he was gonna say something lower, but it was a legitimately entertaining movie. There were some red herrings, no pun intended, but that was what made it good. The fact that there were red herrings, as far as I'm concerned. But hey, we'll get to me when we get to me. All right, Shuffle, we're gonna go on push to talk, and why don't you bring in the middle?
All right, so I'm gonna preface this and say this: I am a very big Captain America fan. I read a fuck ton of Cap comics, including Sam. And I'm going to let that factor things in a little bit, but most of what I'm going to say is not going to have that as a factor. And there's a reason for that. But I will say this was not a Captain America movie. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, this was a Hulk movie disguised as a Captain America movie. They did all the stuff they wanted to do with Hulk, but for Cap, because they don't want to pay Universal money. And it is very, very apparent. And I have a lot of issues with this movie. I'll get to it. I guess I will go through these things. Plot and story. I'm gonna be honest. Mid as hell. It was a big old nothing. Like, the plot for it, I'm like, oh, the secret conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. You have someone hiding shit. In the government. Someone from the military hiding shit. That's not a conspiracy. That's like fucking every day for the military. And this isn't the first movie, Marvel or otherwise, we've seen that. And it was trying to be a spy movie, but there really wasn't all that much to kind of make it unique or its own. It felt very, very cookie cutter on all fronts. Like, I wasn't surprised at any given point. And I'll say this, spoilers, the movie revolved around Red Hulk being a twist. Why the fuck was he in all the marketing? I mean, mind you, it was obvious a mile away, but if you're using that as a twist in your plot, why is it the end of the movie?
It's like,
I mean, if you're going to market it everywhere.
It's like they pulled one of those Terminator bullshit thing.
It's stupid. Writing and dialogue, fine. It was passable. Like, nothing was, like, annoying, but I will say this about the writing and the dialogue. They're explaining to you nonstop in the movie what happened 5 seconds ago, or what you just saw. It's like, I get it, you're gonna have young children watching this shit, but, like, children aren't this fucking stupid. I'm gonna be real. Like, fine. SFX and music, the music did nothing. The music was just whatever. And the effects were, you could tell there was green screen at times, but, like, at the end of the day, it was like, okay, this is a February movie, whatever. I'm just like, but it was just like, Like, honestly, the movie was a big old nothing. The message of the movie is, your past doesn't define you. You can be better yourself and become better. I'm like, wow, great. So, it wasn't even that well done at all. Not to mention the fact, I'm watching a Captain America movie. This movie said nothing. Fine, it's a superhero movie. Superhero movies can say nothing and be fine and entertaining. I'm okay with that. That is not, ever, what a Captain America movie should be. Never. I did not feel a grain of emotion in this movie. Every other Cap movie has made me feel some sort of emotion, feel some sort of way. I felt nothing. Falcon and Winter Soldier was a better story than this, because at least it said something. And like Falcon and Winter Soldier, that show, I'll say, the first 3 episodes are, but the last 3 kind of pull it together. And while it does have a lot of its own issues, I still think it's better than this, because it tried to say something and took risk. This felt like a mandatory pushed out because we have to. This did not feel like a Sam Cap movie. I'm sorry. There was like little to no focus aside from a few small scenes of nothing, of like what he's battling with being Cap. Yes, he did all that in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but that was on a smaller scale than this. And not to mention, this is something different. And then the whole thing with the other Falcon getting hurt and whatever, and he feels bad. I'm like, okay, great. We all know he's not dying. Duh. Like, this movie is literally... There's a reason I said my middle score earlier. This movie is a 5 out of 10. It was a movie. I sure did watch this. There wasn't anything, like, overly horrible, but I'm like, man, I'm not gonna remember this in a couple months. Probably less. Like, shit just kinda happened. Like, it broke... Like, I know it's Matt Stone and Trey Parker, but they've taught a writing course on how you're supposed to write a story. And they literally broke the main rule. What they said is you should never write a story where it goes, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. That's what this movie felt like. What you're supposed to do for good writing is, this happened, so then this happens. And then this happens, and because this happens, then this other thing happens. It connects. Yeah, exactly. But you kind of sometimes have to explain it, because you can make an argument that cause and effect does happen in this movie. It doesn't really, and it's just kind of the pieces are falling together. The leader was not well done as a villain. Like, this made no sense. And then the post-credit scene was a big old fucking, oh, there's a multiverse. Like, Zax, I know, is going to say something about it later, but I'm like, wow, really? The multiverse, huh? Shocking. Like, this movie, it was a movie I watched, all right? Like, I felt nothing. I left feeling nothing. I got nothing out of this. The move, which is the last thing you want from a Captain America movie. Literally everything I have for these grades, it's 5. Every single thing for each of these categories, it's a 5.
Damn, that was brutal. But again, we wouldn't be, Token Podcast if we were an echo chamber. So I'm okay with that. I was actually kind of thinking you were going to say it was like god awful trash, but like I said, you kind of did foreshadow what you were going to say. So, I kind of saw it coming a little bit. Okay, so I guess that just a little bit. All right, so look, as far as the plot and the story, characters who are over 50 years old, who have dozens of stories they're involved with, or hundreds they're directly and indirectly involved with, they're not hard to write for, because writing for humanity doesn't change. You have to take a story and a concept, and you just have to put something in it that people haven't seen in a long time, or you think will fit the story, which kind of ties back into that Matt Stone Trey Parker shit. Okay, here's the problem specifically that's unique with Marvel. They share too many of their assets with other people who have their head in their ass. Now, I am not saying Universal Group is stingy and selfish and a piece of shit with the Hulk. Here's what I will tell you. Nothing they do anyone understands except for the people that directly negotiate with them, because of all the people who hold rights to Marvel's various assets. I don't know if y'all realized it. Universal is the only one who is so tight-lipped that almost nobody knows anything about their entire process. Because of this, I feel like we should have had a different villain gallery, or rogues gallery, which is the term for a group of villains usually. Do not get me wrong.
Originally there was for this movie.
I have the strangest feeling you're not actually on push to talk. I do believe you, though. Let me just say that. I do believe you. Here is the problem I have with this movie. We already know it had multiple rewrites and reshoots and re-edits and dialogue change and character changes. That was not because of Universal not playing ball or giving them a hard time like Sony may or may not do sometimes. It was because, well, everything that happened in Gaza, and I hope I didn't butcher that name. For the Palestinian homies I got that watch this, there you go. I tried to say it like I'm supposed to say it. I hope you're happy. Now, I think I spoke to Shuffle very, very briefly about this, or either it was Officer. I think it was one of you. I'm not sure. But we all know that there was, or at least it was long rumored because they were actually cast, there was going to be an Israelite-based superhero character who made her debut. That character basically now got turned into, I believe it's a little person who came from the Red Room and doesn't seem to have her super strength to the scale of the original character or her ability to fly. Here's the issue that people don't seem to realize. And I'm not saying this to sound in any way, shape, or form derogatory, and I sincerely hope this does not get misconstrued by you guys or the internet. That character is fucking insignificant and unimportant. And that character was never going to be extremely significant or extremely important. It was just a way to introduce a character that they wanted to introduce because either the writers or Marvel said, hey, you know what? Let's go and introduce some more characters because they can do that. That's how Marvel works with or without Disney.
If I may say something about that character, as someone who's a part of that community that character is highly associated with, she's not liked. She's never been liked. Not since she ever debuted. She was never a liked character. She is a big old nothing. So, like, even when she was announced to be in the movie, people were like, why the hell are you doing this?
They might use her later on for something.
That they always do. Now, as we all surmise and know just with common sense, when Marvel introduces a character, there's always a bit of foreshadowing how important they are based on how often they interact with the main character. For instance, if you watched Cap and Winter Soldier, you know that guy, what's his name, Alejandro, he got the wings. He got the entire suit. You know he got it at the end of it, or right before the end of Cap and Winter Soldier. But as you know, the internet is the internet. So people get paid to professionally instigate and hate or get attention from it. As far as they're concerned, oh, yeah, everyone know this whole movie's about DEI people. This movie is woke. They're going to say the same stupid shit. They don't have a different message and they don't have an explanation. They just say, why is this here? This is DEI. Why is this here? This is woke. Why is this here? This is femininity and feminist. And they literally don't know what those terms mean. They just repeat ignorance after ignorance. So if I'm Marvel and I know that you could have a good or bad movie, not even based on if you did a good or bad job, but because the amount of assholes who get money off of making you look like a piece of shit or saying your shit is trash without seeing it or knowing anything about it, have almost as much effect as someone who reviews movies professionally and you didn't buy off to review your movie and gives you a good score. What are you going to do? We all know this. And I know I told you about this, Shuffle. Unfortunately, a good movie can die if it doesn't have an actor that could pull somebody in. That's just unfortunately how it is. People who say they like a movie or a concept will still not go see a movie, or now we got a generation of people who will wait till it's online and completely forget that it's online if a movie doesn't have people that they like to see. And that's fucked up, because the best person for the job isn't always who got the role. It's the person who will make people come to the theater. We all know this. So you already know going in that character needs to either be played by someone who's extremely important and celebrated, or they need to be the definition of a nothing burger and they just need to be here to be set up later. But then everything that happened in Gaza happened. Now, we will be here all day, but here's the abbreviated version for whoever's been living under a rock and didn't already know this. Benjamin Netanyahu over-retaliated. And no, I'm not sure if that prefix can be applied to retaliated. Over-retaliated to a terrorist threat, to the point where numerous innocent civilians Doctors Without Borders and third parties have been directly affected without having been involved or even wanting the attack to have happened.
Disproportionate retribution, I think, is what you're looking for.
Yes, but again, the audience that we're talking to right now, I can promise you, based on the demographics, we're probably sharing a little bit of a demographic with Joe Rogan. So you already know right there, that's already somewhat problematic. So they don't know shit like that. Yeah, they don't know those words and those terms. So because of this, and because of Netanyahu's continued ignorance and disturbing human rights violating levels of retaliation, there are people literally defending it, disowning it, and third parties who didn't want to take a side, who are forced to take a side, or people who don't want to take a side because they're hypergamist. And for the uninitiated, basically someone who wants to benefit from both sides equally, and an opportunist, the type of people who love you, but then the minute they can get something from someone else, you no longer exist to them. You know, people who like pretending they're the good guys when really they just want to wait for the smoke to settle and then pick the winner. Literally, that's basically what a hypergamist is. Disney, obviously, without even wanting to be or possibly trying to be, has to default into that position. So they knew if they made that character prominent or important, the first thing people are going to find out is she's barely ever fucking spoken in the comics. In fact, in her totality since the 70s, if memory serves, she's been in less than 50 comics her entire print career.
It is something like that.
You cut off.
I said it is something like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, her character was not meant to be a piece of shit or trash. She's just not popular. That's just how it is. Sometimes people are popular, sometimes they're not. Same with characters. So Disney also has a unique ability to elevate characters into popularity that carries down into the comics, and sometimes vice versa. Guardians of the Galaxy being one of the biggest examples. The current Star-Lord has overtaken the original Star-Lord as far as popular consciousness. The Guardians of the Galaxy had a sales spike when James Gunn was directing those movies. Those characters were not that popular to the lexicon of, pop culture. To Marvel people, okay, but to pop culture, hell nah. That's how it works. It's a synergistic relationship. But making this character popular was immediately going to invite people trying to snipe them. Disney siding with Zionists, etc., etc., etc. Just because I said that word, this video is going to already be buried. I already know. But here's the thing. That's not what they're doing. That's not what Marvel's doing. They're a fucking business. They made the most business decision possible and decided, okay, we're going to need to rework how involved or how deep this character is connected and who they are and their whole background, because we might catch hell without wanting to catch hell, and that wouldn't be fair to everyone who did a good job on this movie and whatnot. So in this particular case, Disney is not at fault, and I don't blame them.
Neither do I. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a business decision.
Pretty much.
Yes, that's literally what I just said. And then that same breath, when you get to the Samuel L. Jackson shit, they fumbled the bag so hard, no one understands how it even happened, because they could have made it so much easier to comprehend, but they didn't. So honestly, I get it. They literally did not have a choice. I can honestly say, I don't know if I would have done something different. They did not disregard the character. They still respected the character. But just because people found out that they were going to be moved around, people tried to make a fuss about it online, and they didn't even know shit about the character, didn't care about the character. So as far as what they did with the plot and story, I want to give it a flat out B+, and I'm going to tell you why it's not getting an A. There was one simple reason. You can't say the word fucking gamma. You can't have a Hulk running around in this bitch and then not say the Hulk's name, and on top of that, him not be involved in any way, shape, or form. If they would have just tried to call him and then they got a hold of She-Hulk and She-Hulk tells him, oh yeah, he's actually off planet. What? He's off planet? He couldn't have picked a worse time. They could have just did something so simple, and it would have worked. But they didn't. They didn't say the Hulk's name. The closest we got was, I didn't know they came in red.
Yep.
Oh, so you can say half his name because it's a color, but you can't say the other one? Like, quick reminder, Marvel's has more than one fucking Hulk. In fact, Bruce Banner which people still keep forgetting his actual name is Richard, wasn't even the first Hulk. There's a whole nother Hulk that Universal doesn't even own or that they share. They could have did so many other things. She-Hulk should have shown up at least fucking once at some point in time. They got Bucky to show up. I like what they did with Bucky. They could have did something that simple. Jen didn't even have to turn into She-Hulk. She could have just been Jen for some insignificant parts. Or they could have made it where she was temporarily disabled right before she was going to help Sam or teamed up with Sam. And then halfway through the fight, she got disabled because the leader predicted that he would do something like this. You know, some bullshit like that, which that is how the leader works. And fucking, by the way, his name is not even mentioned because, again, we don't know how anal Universal is being about titles. But his villain alias is the moniker The Leader. And not once was he even hinted at or stated.
Well, the closest we got is he went, I am the hero.
Yeah.
Also, he's going to reveal his name. So this is why I say Disney isn't at fault for almost everything that happened that we would consider not up to standard. It was Universal. Because even if we don't know what they did, the problem is we at least know at a bare minimum, they are very anal retentive about playing ball to the point where it's a fucking problem. Because this movie should not have primarily had the Red Hulk as an ender. I'm cool with him being there and being established. But he shouldn't have been an in-game villain, no pun intended, for the simple fact that Universal was going to fuck him over. But remember what I said. They would have had to have fixed this shit on top of all the shit that happened with this nothing of a fucking character whose name I literally can't even remember. I don't even remember what her superhero name is. That's how insignificant she was. But because she just happens to be tied to Jewish by nationality and I want to say religion, and then Netanyahu's bitch ass, they got fucked. And I will give them the benefit of the doubt because look at what they were able to pull off in spite of all those limits they get. That's how you know if you have a good team and a creative team. When you can get this many restrictions and limits and last minute changes and you can still pull out what you pulled out. Now, moving on to the writing and the dialogue. Hey, look, if you're not a comic book person, there's basically two stores. As far as I'm concerned, the dialogue and the writing was the definition of a cock tease. I mean, their mouth is just fucking all up on it, but they're not doing anything. No tongue, just breathing on it. That shit. Oh my God. You couldn't say Red Hulk. You couldn't say Hulk. You couldn't say the leader. The fact that they got away with using the word gamma blew my mind on some level. Okay?
Well, you can't steal that. That's an actual scientific concept.
Thank you. So fucking here we come in this movie. We're expecting the Red Hulk to appear. First and foremost, I thought everybody else was going to be in like maybe a 5-minute sequence that they showed off being in conflict. And the rest was going to be, you know, Bucky showing up at some point, helping them out because he realized, man, this is bigger than the both of us. This is like an inside job thing. And you're one of the only people I can trust. I was partially right. I didn't even expect, and no one expected, to my knowledge, his whole little sidekick finally showing up. We didn't know when he was going to show up, but we knew he was going to show up. And then we also got the part where, oh, I want the Avengers to be under my wing, no pun intended, and I want you to be my lackey. And we got to see the inner conflict, although it was very brief, with him wrestling with that. Because Captain America does not represent the United States of America as an employee. He represents ideals. He is basically Uncle Sam in comic book format. He represents the idea of what America, United States of America, is supposed to be, which it isn't. We all know this, but what it's supposed to be. So if you are beholden specifically and exclusively to the federal government as a contracted agent, commissioned officer, that would be his official title. He would be a commissioned officer. That's already a conflict of interest. But the fact that the same dude who tried to lock him up and kept him in prison legitimately is saying, hey, come work for me, is not uncommon. In fact, I saw a lot of people online saying that wasn't unrealistic. That was stupid. People wouldn't do that. No, the military and the government does it all the time. Some of the greatest hackers that have ever worked for the government and computer people were criminals in their internet or computer-based field. We hired them, gave them a contract, and they get 6 and 7 figures annually. And a lot of them don't actually go back to the life they reform. It's actually very common to hire online criminals, not of the scam and grift type, who know computers to an extremely well degree, hackers and such. It's very common for governments to do that. It's not just North America. So I understood that. But the problem is that a lot of people don't like how little he brings up his issues and pressure of feeling like Captain America. And I'm just like, bro, did y'all forget? When was the last time Chris Evans played Captain America? When was the last time Chris Evans played Captain America? It was like 2017 or 18 or something like that, whenever Endgame came out. Guess what? He has been the captain almost the entire time since then. When he handed him that shield, he's Captain America. I call him Captain Falcon, but he is Captain America. These guys live a life where they sometimes have to struggle for money. They will get injured and hurt by people trying to kill them. And they live in the United States of America, so they don't have free health insurance. And Tony Stark is dead, so all that funding is gone. And like he said in the show, they get donations and investments from various third-party, philanthropy groups. We don't know how much of that goes to medical bills. We don't know how much of that goes to residency. So they're not getting paid to do what they do. The only person in this movie who was getting paid to do what they was doing was the fucking villains and Alejandro, because Alejandro is, I believe, he is a second lieutenant.
Do you mean, are you talking about Joaquin?
Joaquin, yeah. He's either second lieutenant or he is a staff sergeant. But I couldn't make out what his rank was on the screen. So he's literally the only good guy, quote unquote, getting paid. And that motherfucker got a busted up arm and possibly a concussion right now. And people don't like that they only just now had a conversation at the end of the movie about what it feels like and what he goes through and the insecurities that randomly show up with being Captain America. I'm like, bro, he had an entire series where he had to try to figure that out. He had an entire series, and what ended up happening, the same thing that happened here. He talks about it for a little bit, but he knows when it's time to get work done, that thoughts like that need to be in the back of his head. The writing doesn't get us enough credit to me. So for me, I give the writing an A, because there were genuine moments that I was engaged with, I thought was funny, but also the villains actually had characterization other than 2 or 3 minutes that established what their personality is. Really stop thinking about it in Avengers, the first Avengers. How long did it take you to realize Loki was a fucking 1-page book? It took me 5 minutes of hearing him to realize he's a 1-page book. His depth doesn't come till Loki. The Loki show, season 1 and season 2. And I still see people complaining about that show, saying it sucked, which I'm not even gonna get in on them. I don't understand that. But
let them be wrong.
If you like the characters, that's one thing. You have to look at them objectively and how they were presented. We were never expecting a 1-to-1 comic version of the character in the movies. But we do get to see what's going on inside his head, and it was done at the right time. It should have come at the end of the movie, because if it opened like that, it would have felt weird. Isaiah should be conflicted about anything involving the federal government. He is an old black man who grew up in the United States of America. Okay? There has literally never been a time where you don't have a worry. Now, the rich ones claim they don't have a worry, but hey, if they get pulled over, I bet you they're going to have some. But that's few and far between. He was a federal agent who worked for the federal government, Department of Defense, and he was used as a fucking guinea pig. The fact that he hasn't gone off on a ballistic killing spree is nothing but the definition of amazing. And I honestly get it, and I wholeheartedly understand that this man showing up to the White House was a big deal. And they played it right. I didn't know how they were going to handle Isaiah. Also, fun fact for those of you out there, the actor who's playing Isaiah was the Martian in Justice League, the TV show. Yeah, fun fact.
Learn something new today.
They did the best job they could, despite external forces fucking over that script numerous times. They were brilliant writers. Whoever fixed and had to come in and do that shit over and over again, I tip my hat to you. So yeah, I give the fucking plot and story a fucking B, like I said, but the dialogue is straight up an A. Because the leader, you can tell, he basically sees anyone who's not the Hulk as an insignificant threat. At no point in time did he not sound relaxed. He looks at Sam, and when I see him on screen, despite his hideousness, it feels like he's looking through Sam. He's like, you're just a number to me. In fact, he did give him a number. He said 77%. Well, I guess that's a percentage technically, but you know what I mean. Now, for sound effects and music, I ain't gonna lie. I hate to say it, but this is one of those few times when generic music was a good pick. Like songs that you can barely remember that blend into the background was a good pick. Because let me tell you something. If you actually watch any of the Department of Defense or any military or presidential related shit, with the exception of the Presidential Honors for Music theater that happens, I think, once every 4 years or something like that, or once every year, that music is very one note, generic, so unoffensive that you can't even remember it. Now, as far as the sound effects, that's where they actually shined. I don't know who they got to do the sound effects, but holy shit, they did their fucking job. They did their homework. Whoever did those sound effects, I feel like they might have worked on Top Gun 1 and 2 or something. Those jets sounded like jets. The missile firing was a little bit off, but you know, to be fair, most of the time when people are trying to record a missile, they're also moving at hundreds of miles per hour. So it's always going to be a little bit distorted, but it was believable. The water effects, the wings getting hit, Red Hulk losing his mind, those explosions, they did a good job. And it is hard to do a good job with stuff like that because people, they compartmentalize it so quickly. I've seen Michael Bay films. There's always an explosion. Do I remember the sounds of Michael Bay explosions? Hell no, because they don't interest me. But in this movie, they found a way to make those sounds for some of the most generic shit you'll ever see in an action movie interesting. Motherfucker jumped off the White House and collapsed it. And I was like, oh shit, I felt that. And that's the best I can say about the whole Red Hulk fight without giving too much spoilers. There's a part where he jumped off the White House. Yeah, that's not going to ruin it for anybody. So cons. Well, the pro is also a con in this case. Sound effects, I'm giving it an A. So for the pros, so for the cons, okay, the script, there was too much shit that was obviously left on the table, too many cock teases, but the average viewer isn't going to know that. So whether or not it's a con is completely based on your knowledge of Marvel. And even for me, it's a very low on the list con because like I said, it's not Marvel's fault. I know most of this isn't Marvel's fault, but they still put it out though. They had to finalize it and approve it. It's going to be interesting to see the uncut version of this movie whenever that comes out, or director's cut, let me tell you.
If it ever comes out.
Yeah, because like, I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, again, I'm not saying this to be mean. That person who's playing that Israeli superhero lady.
Yes, Sabra.
Barely.
Yes, Sabra.
Sabra, yeah, who's barely got any, Middle Eastern genetics in her. Is she a little person? Like,
no.
Legitimately.
I don't think
she's
so.
She's just a small woman. Just probably like 5'2".
No, bro. She is below 5'2". I don't know who that actor is, but we gonna Google her later.
You gotta remember, she's next to characters that are like above 6 foot. She's gonna look smaller.
Yeah, but she's also in heels the entire time, boot heels. So if she looks that high up with boot heels on, I'm betting you she's not even 5 foot. We'll look this up later. It's not relevant. Well, and which goes to my next con, no, which kind of ironic. Sabra is a fucking problem. And no, it's not because of all the shit that happened. Her character was the problem to me. Okay? She should not have been that high up on the food chain in the federal government that fast. Yes, I did say earlier the federal government does hire people that have wronged them. That's not the problem here. She hasn't wronged them as far as we know. The problem is you don't get to that position in under 2 years' time. Period, ever in your career. I don't care what you've done. You don't just get to that position. So she shouldn't have even been in that position. If they wanted to keep her in the movie, that's fine. But she should have been something else, like make her an Israeli ambassador once she came out of the Red Room program. That would have worked so much better. But no, she's the head of the president's Secret Service? Are you fucking serious? No, absolutely not. That actually bothered me. Because first off, this character is Israeli, has never not been a resident of Israel. And you're telling me she's now in Marvel, when you are going to prop her up to be her own character, she's beholden to the United States government. Now you got a fucking weirder problem than Captain America working for the United States government. No, they didn't cut her right. I get it, but she should have not been given that title in the movie. So, the next con isn't so much relating to the leader. It's something that I like that they did, but I also feel like it wasn't a proper use of a red herring. The adamantium. The fucking adamantium. Bro, look, I get it. You don't want to establish Wolverine because Marvel hasn't figured out who their new Wolverine is going to be yet. Or it's going to be Henry Cavill, but probably not. But they haven't figured out who they want their next Wolverine to be yet. There will be, Hugh Jackman in, I think, Deadpool and Wolverine 2. But Hugh Jackman is being sunsetted. We all know this. It's not a secret. Also, he doesn't want to be Wolverine anymore. So, look, I'm going to just come out and say it. I'm going to come out and fucking say it. There should have been someone or some form of a prototype of the weapon program. We should have seen someone. That would have been a better villain. That would have been a better interest story. I do like Giancarlo Esposito. I don't know why I can't not say that man's full name. I do like Sidewinder. But one of the biggest issues with trying to get Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder is that Giancarlo Esposito is very, very old. I'm not saying that to be mean, but you have to understand, he's at a point in his life where unless he specifically devotes his time to gaining a higher level than muscle than most people of his age, he's not going to look like a character who should be running around and doing the things that his character's doing. He basically is getting ready to age out of the role. But at the same time, I am not saying he was a bad actor. This man got fucking drop kicked by a dude who's 20, 30 years younger than him. And he got put into a window of a car. Listen, that wasn't John Carlos. Esposito. That had to be a stunt double. Listen, if they got somebody closer in a healthier age who can handle this level of stuff, let's really think about it. They would be able to have more dynamic fight scenes without being able to pull away or to not show his face and have a stunt double.
True that.
I would prefer Giancarlo Esposito still be in this movie, but be given a different villain or be put in a different position as a villain. Now, the leader, on the other hand, okay, my only problem with the leader, and I'm going to call it a con, the biggest con I have is that you have characters who can't even say who they are. That is fucking weird. That's like having Superman in a movie and Clark Kent, but you can't say the name Clark or Kent, and you can't say the words super and man. Do you feel how dumb that is?
They really just should not have gone this route. If they knew this was going to happen, they just should not have made the Hulk characters the entire focus of the movie, or like a major part of the movie.
And that's where I have the unique con and why I say my grading system for this whole thing is a double-edged sword. Because the best thing about this movie, for me, besides the action sequences, barring one exemption, is the plot and the story. Because they were able to still pull it off despite everything keep fucking them without them trying to mess it up. However, at the same time, the fact that they went through with characters who can't say their own fucking name in a movie is a concept is unfucking heard of and should not happen. But also, the average viewer is so insignificantly bothered by that fact. That's only going to bother someone who actually listens and looks at Marvel without needing to be in front of, a 30-foot screen. So, my final grade, I'm going to have to give this movie a B+. It is watchable. I will rewatch it especially if there ends up being a director's cut. But I want them to handle the next movie or the next season of Captain and Winter Soldier a lot better. Because going into this movie, without knowing stuff about Marvel, turn that part of your brain off, you watched a good action movie. But knowing what happened with the development of this movie, knowing how hard it was to get things done into a certain place, there's no excuse for them to have done it this way. They could have changed everything out. Matter of fact, you could even still keep Red Hulk, but change everything out. In fact, made the TV show that comes after season 2 about how the Red Hulk was born, or make the second movie cover how the Red Hulk was born, and then make the leader the primary villain, but then include the Hulks, She-Hulk and Bruce Banner. Throw some Bucky in there because everybody loves Bucky, and have those unique sequences. What makes Marvel's world beautiful is when the characters are working together, not just waiting till an Avengers movie. Okay, I like that Doctor Strange was in the last Spider-Man movie. I like that. You know, yes, I did like Tobey Maguire the most, but I like that Doctor Strange was there. It worked. It was cool. You know?
Yup.
Yeah, but I do have some bad news for you. There is no Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2. Any plans of any variety of that? That was determined before it being made. It was always going to be a one-off.
I guess that's all right.
Well, let's hope one day we get it too. I would love to get a season 2, or do it where there's Captain America the show, and then there's, you know, one season of Winter Soldier the show. I'm okay either way. I want that little relationship bullshit they go through to continue. But also, they're making fucking Bucky a congressman. Now, he did become a government agent over time, but still, it's just weird.
Yeah, I saw that and that threw me off. I'm like, hold on, Congressman? What?
There's a story there that should have happened that we didn't get to see, and it should have happened before this movie even came out. That's one of the things I'm gonna now consider con, how they did Bucky, because that's too important of a thing to announce and not have a lead up to that. And then you see Sam didn't even ask, "Oh, how are you a congressman now?" He just go, "Oh, Congressman Bucky, congratulations." Like, no, bro, no. There needs to be something with that.
I think they said he was running for Congress, so
Correct.
maybe he'll be fail that
Point.
Yeah,
we'll
I
see
agree.
what happens in Thunderbolts. We'll see
Yeah,
what
I was about
happens
to say
in Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts will probably, detail that.
They'll probably say, "Hello, so you lost the election, huh? I'm calling it now."
Probably.
And I mean, so Zach, like, I see your points on all these. Oh wait, what? Saying like, I see.
I just said.
Oh, okay.
God damn it.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost done. I would just legitimately be surprised if they ever truly explain it. I feel like they literally were supposed to have a Winter Soldier cameo, but because the script changed so much, the cameo had to change. That's what I think. Now, yeah, my final grade is B+. Now, what were you about to say?
So, I agree with a lot of the points you made, and I understand a lot of the points you made. However, I've grown a higher threshold for rating certain movies. And I am like, yes, I knew about all those horrible production pieces. There are other parts that are running around. However, I am grading the piece of media that was put in front of me. And like how I looked at it, I'm like, even as an average moviegoer, I'm like, yeah, you can turn your brain off and it's like it's an action movie, sure. But I would not call it a good action movie. I'd call it passable, which is part of the reason why I gave it a 5. It was sure a movie I did watch. Like, it is not very memorable. I think most people who watch it will not remember much about it after the fact. And I think that is not a good sign. If you make a movie, like for prime example, I'm not going to go into, and I don't want us to like pivot down a review in this path, but like Joker 2, I gave the same rating. A 5. It was sure a movie I watched. Difference is, I felt that movie's a lot more memorable. Visually, in terms of what happens, things like that. Was it great or good? No, but it sure was a movie I did watch. That was a movie. I feel that way about this, except this movie I think is going to be very forgettable. And I think that is probably one of the worst things you can be as a movie. Forgettable. And like, I feel bad for the creators and the people who made it and put all the work into it. But the product we got is still the product we got. And I was looking at it as, this is what we have. Not in that manner.
Yeah, it felt like it. Look, well, like I said, I'm not disagreeing with your points. Like I said, the whole reason this entire YouTube channel exists is because this is not an echo chamber. You do make sense. I'm not going to dispute that. What I'm saying is that I unfortunately have to grade them on a curve, but I don't make excuses for them. So I acknowledge their problems, but I'm not comfortable giving them an A grade. Will this movie do great? If they can fend off all the professional instigating assholes who get contractually obligated to hate on Marvel, or who do it because they think that that's the only way they can keep an audience, is the real issue. Because now they got to worry about the same issue as the Marvels. Because everyone and their mom shitted on that movie without even knowing what the fucking plot was or seeing it. And then the minute it goes online, it fucking goes ballistic in sales. And then everyone and their mom say, oh, well, I mean, they haven't doing the strike, so they couldn't advertise or promote. It's like, no, bitch, y'all were saying it was shit without even seeing it. There was literally nothing wrong with that movie. In fact, the characters, the three main characters' personalities were distinct. And that's one of the main things I like, and I never get to see properly in a Marvel movie when they group up longer than 5 minutes or 3 minutes until we got to like the Spider-Man shit. Everybody starts sounding like it's one person saying the same lines. But no, if you actually sit down and get them in their own shit, you can see characterization. But when they get together, they all turn into lighthearted Spider-Man. Sarcastic and quippy anytime they fuck with a villain. Or they're quiet Spider-Man. The only people who had legitimate personalities that were distinguishable when they were in a group was fucking Ant-Man, of all people. Ant-Man.
I'll say this I will give credit to the movie for this. They did do a good job of keeping the tone serious. Like, there's really only one time in the movie where they did a Marvelism where I went, oh, you just ruined the feel of that scene. Yeah. Which is very good for modern Marvel. Only one time, I'm like, okay, I can live with this.
Well, I like the consistent tone, but also, you know, the funny parts were the funny parts because they fit the moment. They were before they got into something serious, and that's why I liked it. The funny came after the serious thing or before it, not during, because that's how we learn these characters and their personalities. Like, bringing up Ant-Man alone was just hilarious. Like, because, you know, Anthony Mackie fucking hates Ant-Man. He doesn't even hate him because he's a bad person. He hates Ant-Man because Ant-Man whooped his ass. And he feels like Ant-Man is somehow beneath him. That's the only reason he hates him. It's that Vegeta ego. I don't hate Goku because he's Goku. I hate Goku because he beat me. But yeah, with that being said, I appreciate you guys coming through. And I hope we are able to do this again for Thunderbolts, because I know I'm going to fucking love that movie. I know I'm going to love it. The only thing I hate about that movie is Taskmaster. But I've been talking about how much I hate Taskmaster in Marvel, not in the comics, for like 4 years. I don't need to bring it up. I fucking hate it.
There's a certain character in Thunderbolts. I'm mentally prepping myself for disappointment that they're trying to treat as a twist. And it's a character I am very personally attached to and love to death. And I'm just, having seen what I've seen already, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to go well. The rest of the movie looks fun, but that one character, I'm just like, no!
Are you talking about the Sentry?
Yes. Who Marvel has been trying to act like isn't in the movie.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even like a spoiler at this point, which is the part that annoys me.
Well, yeah. Well, in your first trailer, when you go, and here's Bob. Who else is this? This blonde hair guy named Bob.
No, we knew 2 years before that because some asshole snitched on the actor that was playing him on live broadcast, but he had to make a public statement, which was supposed to be private. I actually did get the role, but I'm refusing it and removing myself from the project because this is not the character I even wanted to be. I even wanted to portray. So we knew it was the Sentry like 2 years ago. I'm pissed that that's how we found out. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If they'd said, and Bob, I would have known it was a sentry, but it was the fact that some dude snitched 2 years in advance, and because of that, the actor who played him had to fucking resign from the role in public.
Wasn't it originally supposed to be the guy who played Glenn in Walking Dead?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like that casting anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I didn't like that casting.
And I really hate the people that are trying to say, oh, you're just mad because he was an Asian. I was like, no, man, because it was stupid casting. When did we forget that some
he's
people
an
make a
amazing
stupid
actor.
decision,
Like, I know
regardless
that
of
actor.
color?
That actor's amazing. He is not the Sentry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, people keep forgetting when it comes to these Marvel things, sometimes the issue is not their sex or their skin. Sometimes it's somebody at the top was being nepotistic and they can't hide it, and it pisses off the people who respect these characters or like these characters or realize they open the door for a plot hole down the line. That's the main problem I have with Taskmaster. But again, we're not going to get into that. With that being said, I appreciate you guys coming through. And again, I hope we're able to do this for Thunderbolts. And next up on our list is Romulus. All right, Romulus, go ahead and take it from starting the top. Plot and story first, writing/dialogue, and then close us out with your grade on the sound effects and music.
Alrighty, so what I would give my overall grading for this movie, honestly, an A- considering the factors of how I viewed it coming in from a person who only sticks to mainline content and not... I'll probably get eventually around to it, but watching these from movie to movie, plus embarrassingly enough, I still have yet to see the original Hulk movie that kicked off the MCU.
I mean, to be fair, when that movie came out, you would have been like 6 or 7, so no one's blaming you.
True enough, but they made it the President Harrison Ford was a pivotal character about why he's disliked because of that movie, how he chased around Hulk and Abomination, destroying... I forgot what they said they were when that movie came out, but again, I feel like even though I haven't ingested everything that circumvents this movie, it's still pretty good. It doesn't make people feel alienated as much. I mean, like, again, like, the Hulk actor from that movie and the Hulk actor we have now are two different people. It's a really old movie, and I feel like they just pivot away from that type of Hulk anyway. The plot and the story. Now, I feel like this is where it kind of goes up and down, because plot-wise, honestly, a 10. How it was executed in the story, I give it an 8. The reason I give it an 8 was the promotional material surrounding Red Hulk. Y'all spoiled that so fast for us to get people in seats. And since y'all made it seem like Red Hulk was going to be a pivotal moment, but at the end of the movie, y'all didn't do something I would have liked and promoted the Brain Dude, my more intrigued Hulk villains from watching the Hulk animated series way back when on a channel y'all probably don't remember of Jetix, but that was some great watching right there of seeing how he's like, yeah, statistically you have a 72% chance of talking me down. You have a 92% chance of walking away when you see your friend on the camera. So on and so forth. If I didn't feel like I was being taken away from that, or taken away from what you promoted the entire time of Red Hulk, that would have been too bad. But I guess I can't really hold that against the story, because the story was executed well. And if I was going to critique the story for the 8, definitely the back and forth of, we like Captain America, we don't like Captain America, we got to bring up Steve Rogers again, because Steve wouldn't let this happen, even though he fucking main consultant with Civil War lost his shield and had to hide out in Wakanda until fucking Infinity War. And was also locked up for a little bit before, I think at the end of that movie, Hawkeye broke him out. But it felt very up and down pace from, personally, I feel bad, a super soldier I never heard of. Then after that, I don't know why they just denounced the fact of sleeper agent activation. And that was the biggest thing for the Captain America movies. Civil War and fucking Winter Soldier, where clearly they have on recording Bucky being recited a phrase to activate sleeper agents, and this information was proven to the other ones. And while at the end of the movie, all the other sleeper agents were killed, and it was done so to ruin the image of Bucky and have the whole government fall apart because of what happened in Age of Ultron. It blows my mind that they completely sidebarred the fact that sleeper agents are a thing. Well, there have been multiple sources. But yeah. The plot... Yeah. I'll still stick with that. The plot of the movie was solid for the envision of the plot of a 10, but I feel like it was not executed to the best extent.
Yeah, that was something a lot of us brought up because, well, I don't know how much or how aware of it you was, but it wasn't supposed to get out that they went through like 4 or 5 different rewrites. To be fair, as I told everybody else who didn't already know, they had to, because that's when the Haza war essentially kind of sort of got kicked off, or a conflict, depending on who you ask. And I shit you not, they were scared to bring in certain characters or change how important they were to the plot. So that was the main thing that led to so many rewrites. Also, they also had a guy die who was supposed to play another one, so that didn't really lead to a rewrite. That led to like a shortening of or an extension on getting this thing produced and out the door. So you can grade them on the curve because of it, or you can say, hey, it doesn't matter, you released it in the state that you did, and you get what you pay for, so to speak. Either option is valid to me. I graded them on the curve, but I still didn't call them perfect myself, so no one's gonna hold it against you.
I feel confident leaving it the plot 10, story execution 8. Now, I will seem to agree with Mr. Officer's rating for the writing at 7 with a dialogue of 8, because what was written does seem to come off on some of that weird MCU type beat sometimes, or they gotta throw in the joke. I mean, I don't mind that he was calling the old dude who took the super serum also OG, but I already know how that comes off for a different set of group of people. Like you're trying to appeal to a much younger audience, when that term has been around longer than I've been alive. But I feel like due to recent events and how much it's been used and watered down, it's not going to hit the same. Also, especially the scene where they're fucking... It's like, oh, what's an airdrop? How do I take a photo? Stuff like that. That was just corny MCU stuff. But I did appreciate how, with the writing, they didn't try to have every major hit have to have a comment behind the impact, like when Homeboy was fighting Red Hulk at the end, and then he notices that his fucking vibranium wings are already at max capacity off of one hit. It's like, wow. And then that to me makes sense versus him trying to get hit once and trying to pull a Steve Rogers, I can do this all day type thing. That would not coincide with how he's written. Now, why I say the 8, the dialogue is an 8, even though the writing is about like a 7.5, honestly. Because they've executed the dialogue pretty well, showing the emotion behind watching his trainer get locked up again and wrongfully accused again. The motivation behind, I think his name is the leader, the dude with the big brain Gamma.
Yes, his name is the leader, and much like Red Hulk, they could not say or did not say their names in the entire fucking movie, and we're still not sure if it's because of Universal or because they felt like it would be kind of tacky and too old school for somebody to go up and just announce, I am the leader, fear me, like some old school Saturday morning, not even Saturday, more like 1970s, 1980s comic book villain. Ironically, I know that's exactly where the fuck he's from, but you can see how that would be a problem. But like I said, also, no one knows how Universal works. So I mentioned it earlier before you got here, but Universal has been the most secretive and tight-lipped in relation to their guidelines and requirements for utilizing the Hulk in the Marvel movies. It's not out in the air in public knowledge or an open secret like with Sony and Disney. So a lot of people have theorized that the reason they couldn't say these characters' names is because it was Universal's fault. They took too long with negotiation rights, supposedly, hypothetically, because no one has confirmed this. It's not even a leaked rumor. But the assumption is that they took too long and they didn't want to wait after delaying the movie so many times. Or they are completely anal about these characters' names being said and how they look and how they appear, to the point where Marvel said, okay, we're just going to work around you instead of with you in the case for, the Captain America 4 movie. Nobody knows for sure. That's why I'm not saying it is their fault, but I don't know if it isn't their fault either. Somebody's hand was in the cookie jar. You just don't know which hand.
Yeah. But anyway, how the leader conducted and carried himself in the movie, that was excellent dialogue, just from being calm, cool, collected, and calculated from, I knew you'd be here. Don't be boring. He took my life from me, so I'm going to take everything from him. We know he hasn't changed. That is amazing dialogue to me. Outside of, like I brought up some of the other nitpickies from the beginning scenes, but those worked. Watching Homeboy cry in jail, realize he's going to solitary, probably going to be put down again, telling him straight to his face, if you want to help me, don't come back. You've done enough. But it was excellent. And I love that about that. Now let's see. Sound effects and music. Hard to really say. Honestly, if I was going to give the sound effects score, be a 5, because I don't feel like when he deployed the Red Wings, I could hardly hear any of their actions. The only time I really heard it was when he told him to burn through the fucking gate and loop the feed. Which, I guess it would make sense that having no audio inclination of being deployed, but I don't know. That just one of the key points. If you're saying you want sound effects to be doing all this, and I was even in the theater Titan Lux Theater where they fucking boast about the Dolby surround sound, bass boosted. You can hear everything so much better, and I barely heard his little drones deploy. Granted, the jet fighting scenes hit through pretty good. What else? How much you can say about the gunshots, because they have gunshot audio on loop for years, and they have that down pat. Music, it was more noteworthy at the end, because I was singing along to by Kendrick. But after that, I really didn't. Oh no, because I also knew Annie up in the beginning too. So I might, yeah, no. I'll change the music score. That can go up to 8 because they actually did play some bangers in there. But I'm still leaving the sound effects at a 5. It didn't really fit well to me too much. Some of the impacts works, but I didn't like how it kept changing frames through a lot of the fights to the less pacing, so I couldn't really hear the impact of Hulk jumping from the White House to the building to the Washington Needle and so on.
Yeah, that sounded kind of muffled to me, and I was in a stupidly premium theater. Like, it looked cool, but the sound was like, this is coming out really muffled.
So I'm glad that I'm not the only one make it feel like some of the impacts could have felt more heavy instead of just me feeling like, oh, we're going over here now. Overall, I still give it a good. Yeah, final overall, still an A- though. I might could watch it a couple more times to try to catch what I missed or
figure out if you like it or not.
Because it's always
Yeah,
the same thing when you go through your.
Okay, for me, I'm strongly predicting that there will be a director's cut. It probably won't be in theaters. Don't get me wrong, the movie's doing well. The people who are paid to say that it's shit without seeing it or are just paid to say it's shit regardless, they're going to keep doing that. But the movie, for all the shit it had to go through in development, is doing pretty well. But we all know there's so many elements that didn't go out how they were supposed to come out for this movie. Don't get me wrong, that happens with anything that involves human beings. This is different. This was shit that was out of their control. Also, I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm really curious because everyone seems to think I'm just seeing things. That chick who's supposed to be playing that quote unquote superhero from Israel, whilst looking like a stereotypical Irish redhead to some degree, minus the freckles, and extremely old, even though I know she's nowhere near 50 probably. Was she a little person? Like, I legitimately could not tell because fucking Bucky and Sam are like 5'8" and 5'10", or they're 5'9" and 5'10". She's in boosted up heels that are at least 4 or 5 inches off the ground, and she is barely above their waistline. Like, I can't tell if she's a little person.
She's not. You're just seeing things. Because when they were going through the breaking out of the impound of what is that called?
The black site.
Where they first meet the leader and he like fucking tells them don't bore me.
Yeah, it was like the black site. Yeah, Camp Echo or some shit, but it's a black site.
Yep. That place, she was relatively normal height, because you could compare it to when she's fighting off all the security guards, saying "Stand down, they're in my custody," and then they turn around to try to kill her, and then she just beats all their asses.
Shira Haas is her name. I'm about to look up her height.
Well, let's see. And then
Okay, well, she's 29. Okay, so I guess it was just the lighting that made her look old as fuck. How tall is 5'2"? Okay, she's not a little person, but she is tiny. Like Sabrina Carpenter sized. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, we finally got the last horse across the finish line. I'm just curious, there's no wrong answers before I say this. Say we get a Captain America 5, or we get a new season of Captain Winter Soldier. What are some things you want to see changed or implemented going forward with Captain America, or AKA Captain Falcon?
what I want to see going forward is better promotional material, or at least bring us along the right way for the plot and understanding. Because I'm tired of you hyping up the end and not showing the beginning.
Here's something I thought was a little bit funny. So, a lot of people assumed that the leader would show up in some way, shape, or form, but we didn't know to what extent. Like, would he just be mentioned, or does he have a scene before he fucks off? Because ain't no way. Well, Marvel claimed they learned their lesson about, hey, let's kill a villain in the same movie. They show up. They learned their lesson. But I thought it was kind of funny that the Red Hulk was a red herring. Pun intended, but that's what it felt like to me. The real villain here is the leader. The one who was a distraction, aka the red herring, was the Red Hulk. Also, I'm kind of pissed he's not going to be in the Thunderbolts. Motherfucker, he made the Thunderbolts. It's in the nickname. Jesse Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah. And so I thought it was. They promoted that during the trailers too, and then Jesse Thunderbolt Ross, and here he is in the raft under federal custody.
Where he, as above, so too below. Where he put Sam, he now has ended. So obviously, their chances of him being in a Thunderbolts 2 is stupidly high. Harrison Ford ain't exactly, cheap, so to speak. But if it seems like he's having a good time in general working with Marvel, and by extension Disney, or he's just having a good time working with Anthony Mackie. Those two get along like, a grown nephew and his favorite uncle, I swear.
I think
Anyways,
he's happy for
I always appreciate. Yeah, well, you're not wrong. All right. Well, with that being said, Romulus, always a pleasure to have you come through. I don't know if you plan to do this for Thunderbolts, but we are definitely going to be discussing Thunderbolts. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.